been 13 years since the murder of 12-year-old Stephanie Crowe, but the Crowe family's civil lawsuit against Escondido and Oceanside police detectives could finally be moving forward in federal court. Joining us now to explain the latest legal ruling is KPBS senior news editor Mark Sauer, who covered the case since the girls' slaying in 1998. Thanks, Mark, for coming. What is it that makes the case of Stephanie Crowe distinctive? I mean, it's a murder case, but why is it different?
Well, it was a shocking case to begin with. This girl is found slain on her bedroom floor. Her family discovers that they call 911. The police show up, and instead of looking at a far more logical suspect, a prowler, who they'd had two 911 calls about that evening, the evening of the murder, they focused on her brother. They thought it was an inside job. And they said, we're going to see who in this house killed this girl, and they focused on Michael Crowe.
He was a kid.
He was 14 years old, and they were completely wrong. They brought him in, interrogated him for many, many hours without an attorney, without his parents' knowledge, and they botched the investigation from start to finish. They brought in two of his close friends, Josh Treadway, Aaron Hauser, interrogated them for many hours, came up with two confessions in this case, one from Michael, one from Josh Treadway. Fortunately, they were videotaped, and you could see, and juries eventually could, and judges take apart what happened in that interrogation room and why they didn't hold up. And eventually, through the good work of a defense attorney, Mary Ellen Attridge, Stephanie's blood was found on the red sweatshirt worn by Richard Tuitt the night of the murder, and the case against those teenagers fell apart.
And Richard Tuitt was a vagrant, basically, wasn't he?
He was well known to police. He had well known to police throughout the North County. He had been a prowler, sneaked into homes many, many times. He has a long history of mental illness and drug abuse, and was a far more likely suspect, but they dismissed him. They didn't think that he could possibly have committed this crime. And the Crowe's attorney, Milt Silverman, will argue, if this case gets into federal court, as the way has now been cleared, that they had every motive not to want Tuitt to be the killer because they didn't catch him the night before. And, please let it be somebody in that house and not the guy we didn't catch.
Okay, so that's what happened then. But this week, what is it that is pushing this case ahead now?
Well, this case has gone on for 13 years in federal court. The Crowe families, all three families actually, had sued, saying that their sons' civil rights were violated against self-incrimination, and under the 5th and 14th Amendment. That lawsuit was basically gutted several years ago by a federal court judge here. The Crowes appealed, and the Hausers appealed. And the Ninth Circuit Court a year ago said that that case can go forward. Richard Tuitt was the killer. These boys, it shocked the conscience what's happened to them in that interrogation room, and they are allowed to sue. Escondido and Oceanside, who had an officer involved in the investigation, decided to appeal that to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court on Monday said, we are not going to hear this appeal. The Ninth Circuit ruling is the law of the land. The trial may continue.
Okay, so the key to all this, really, I think, are the coerced confessions. Yes. How common are coerced confessions?
They are, fortunately, rare. Otherwise, there'd be chaos in our judicial system. But they do occur. We've had more than 200 men released from death row, almost all exonerated by DNA evidence in recent years. Fully 1/4 of those cases involve confessions, by definition, coerced and false confessions. In fact, the Crowe case, we have a chapter, my colleague at the Union Tribune, John Wilkins, and I wrote a chapter on the Crowe case, part of 20 chapters in the book, True Stories of False Confessions, published by the Northwestern University Press last year. John Grisham has a chapter in there. These are all true cases of, as the title says, people who confess to murders they didn't commit.
Okay, in the seconds we have left, Mark, this will go to trial or what?
Well, it'll go to trial or it'll settle. It could be worth millions, this case, but I don't think it'll affect the budgets of Oceanside or Escondido because insurance will cover it.
Thank you, Mark.